Welcome to the Getting Better Show. I am Ann Beal, and this is my co-host, Dr. Jim Slaughter.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Glad you could join us today.
I'm happy to be here, too.
We're glad you're here, David.
Is David L. Johnston, and he is a friend because we've seen you here for many years.
It's been a routine, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Because he has new books all the time. And so we were hoping to see you here, and we didn't know you had another new book. Then I found out about your book, The Virtuous Woman. Now, this is a gift book.
It is a gift book for women, primarily.
Your guide to true feminism. Yes.
There's a lot of fake feminism.
Oh.
There's a lot of fake everything today, right?
Oh.
Oh,
yes.
the fake,
And they're asking men to talk. They're calling men women.
yeah, that's fake.
And
That's
they're
fake.
having men be the face for women.
And
I
at the
keep
national level, White House.
yeah.
It seems, I mean, I'm a woman. To me, it's just so offensive. It's one thing if they, whatever they want or whatever they identify as, but to hold them out as the face of women is very strange. I think it's so strange.
It's worse than strange. It's
So how did you know to
evil.
time this like that? Did God just lead you to time the book like that?
Well, I would like to think it was God leading me, yes. But,
Sure.
What's the interesting thing is that God has high reverence for women.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said, he made Adam first and then woman because the second one is a new improved version. The first one.
Right.
There wasn't enough, so he had to.
Yeah,
Yes, that's funny.
and then he blessed her. And another shocking thing about God is, like, where in the scriptures does he say what he is like? And so it's shocking. He said that he is like a mother mourning for her child.
Right.
So God compares himself to a mother. That is amazing. What happened after that is that women became downgraded by men,
Yes, right.
dominated, overruled, oversought, misused, abused for centuries. And then along came mother of Jesus. Can you imagine Mary?
Yes.
And she did something for womanhood that no one had ever done. She lifted womanhood up on a pedestal. And then for centuries, womanhood has been the subject of the poet's pen, the artist's brush. They mix paint and pigment, and they try to capture the character of her countenance on canvas and her smile. And that lasted quite a while. But in contemporary life, men have tried and are successful of pulling women down off the pedestal into the gutter where they shouldn't be either.
Right.
And so the misuse and abuse of women is really paramount right now. We've lost track of real womanhood. Hence, this chapter of the Bible is about what real womanhood is about.
Yeah. Proverbs 31.
Proverbs 31, correct, Gus?
It's so interesting when you see the media, all these people out there interviewing people and asking them what the definition of a woman is. And so many of them, they don't know.
At the Supreme Court level.
I'm like,
Right.
but what's interesting about that is maybe since they don't really have a real definition of it, anyone can fake it.
Everybody can fake it. Is that what you said?
Yes, because like if we don't really know what the Messiah was going to be like because we haven't studied scripture, then many people could say that they're Messiah and they would fool us. Right. Yeah. And so I was so interested to me that so many people didn't seem to have a definition of what a woman was. That was so strange.
Just a wombed man.
Just because someone puts on different clothes, that makes them a gender change.
Yeah.
I mean, women have been wearing men's clothes. I mean, I was a tomboy.
Well, that's interesting, though, with the trans movement, the transgender movement. Does the Bible say anything about that? And of course, it says it's an abomination for a man to wear women's clothing.
Right.
I mean, how much more detail do you need? But being in the field that you folks are in, which is mental health, you must come across all kinds of this.
Yes.
Yes, we do. We do.
When I work with people, I just try basically to find out what it is that their goal is when they come. And most of the time, no matter how they describe it, their goal is to be happy, to have that wonderful, joyful feeling inside.
Most people don't like themselves.
No, they don't. So when I have someone come in that's changing sexes or anything like that, Because I know the statistics at the end, after they have the full sex change, all the hormones, it takes 10 years, it's $100,000. And anyone who's working 10 years to do something or become something, well, that's a long time and
Yes.
a lot of money. So I'll ask him, I'll just be like, so what's the goal? Like when you get there, what are you thinking? Like, what is it that you want through all that effort and all that money and all that time and all that pain too? Because the hormones too cause trouble. I mean, women always gripe about their hormones. And so what they say is they believe they'll be happy.
A genuine self-acceptance. It's hard to find.
Do you think that's what they're trying to pursue?
They would like to find themselves, and they don't accept themselves, so they're already on the wrong track. It's interesting because so when each of us was in the womb, God implanted in each of us what I call an embedded natural ability. The King James Bible calls it a spiritual gift. You have been endowed with a treasure. Most people don't know it. So they're searching. They want everybody to approve them because at their core, they're not happy with what God made. So they're trying to be something. They just dream up everything. Now, it gets worse than that because, as you know, and probably can quote better than I, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and evil, the darkness of the world, and spiritual wickedness in high places.
High places.
98 verses in the Bible deal with high places, the subject of high places. So we got spiritual wickedness in high places. What are they? Where are the high places? Education. We used to think that kids, it was a risk to go to college because higher education was risky. They are doing it to our kids in grade 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
Because spiritual wickedness in the educational system is filtered down to the grassroots level. We got spiritual wickedness in church.
Yeah.
They turn the grace of God into lasciviousness. We got spiritual wickedness in government. But in Romans chapter 13, we're told to honor the government, and then it defines the government. It's a government that rewards good and punishes evil. Now we have a government that punishes good and rewards evil.
Right.
Got it backwards.
Yeah.
Spiritual wickedness, high places, casting down. Now, of course, where we're at today is women have paid price. Oh, the pain. Now, I happen to think it's going to change. And the reason is because they are damaging their children. And mothers are made to fight for their children.
Right.
Remember the mama bear thing?
Yeah. Oh.
So the mama bears are starting to come out now. They're showing up in the educational system. They're showing up in government places. You're not going to do this to my child. You're not going to do it. And we could see, and I would love to help in any way I can, women to get that mama bear thing to protect their children because it's built in them to do it, you know? And that's what the reference to God is about. He's like that too. You know?
He's the mama bear.
He's a mama bear.
I like that.
So hence the book. What should womanhood really be like? And so the scriptures give us a definition. And it's pretty amazing. There isn't anything in there that isn't high and lofty, beautiful. I mean,
About women.
yeah, but I mean, flowers aren't near as beautiful as women.
No. Well, Jesus, he was the first then that he had women traveling with him.
Yeah, he did.
He taught women. He included women that were a part of his group, which, to the establishment of the time was a sin. It was an evil. Maybe an evil would be better. Like women are not allowed to do those things. Women are not worthy of those things.
Yeah.
Women, because I've interviewed quite a few successful women today. And one of them was from the Middle East, Rita El
Mener.
Mener.
Yeah.
And she is the Sat7 CEO, founder. And she's from the Middle East. And so she was educated. Her dad didn't have a lot of money, but he said, the one thing I can give you, that I want to give you, is more valuable than anything else. And as a woman, to be educated.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, it's interesting that all these cultures want to keep women from being educated. They want to keep women down. And Jesus wasn't like that at all. He was the opposite of that. And that's what, so if you take Jesus out of our country, you take Christianity out. Look what happens to
Take the
women.
values out. Right, exactly.
I mean, they're already taking women out of all the sports. Basically, they don't want to allow women to be able to do anything.
Can you imagine?
They just have men running in women's places, and then they're having them get up on the podium with the skirt or whatever and say it's a woman, right? So women are not even now able to excel.
They are still damaging women, no matter what you talk about.
Yeah.
From every corner of society, it's against women. And it's against children. And I think that's really what's going to fire the women up.
I'm hoping it's also what fires up our Lord.
Yeah.
Because he said not to do that to children in any sort of way. If you
I mean, we kill them.
Yeah.
We kill them. Mm-hmm. And now we're trying to mutilate them.
Right.
Beforehand. Yeah.
So, hence.
But is that all so that they can't reproduce? Because if you go transgender or gay, they don't have children. Because transgenders, if they get the surgery, can no longer have children. Neither one of them. They can't. And so it takes the ability of populating the earth away. Like, it just seems to me like.
So you're really touching on something important there, Ann. And that is the fact that spiritual wickedness that's cascading downwards has to do with stealing, killing, and destroying, right?
Satan.
And Satan. And that's his agenda. And people aren't the problem, but it's the spirit behind the people. And how does a spirit affect a person? Only with the person's consent. And they are allowing Satan. Every doctor that does abortion is in fact a Satanist. I mean, it's so widespread. And now we've got Satan groups in schools, and Satan has been put up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So we've lost track. And woe unto them that put good for evil and evil for good, and darkness for light and light for darkness. So Satan has come as an angel of light.
As an angel of light.
The greatest thing Satan wants to do is convince you that he doesn't exist.
That's right.
So he can get away with everything. Yeah. But again, the tragedy is in the church.
For not speaking up.
Yeah. And for cooperating with it.
Oh.
We have churches with LGBT. We got churches that are transgender, who pastors who are endorsers of it, as if that is what grace is about.
Or they just don't mention it.
Or no stand.
We have a Methodist church in our community. It's a small community.
Mm-hmm.
Our neighbor, she was talking about a new pastor and talking about where his church was. And I said, and you go to the Methodist church? She goes, yeah. And she said, we split off from the Methodist church again. They just split again. And she said, because of all the drag queens and all this kind of stuff, so the church split over that. I'm thinking, you're kidding. Like, how big of a split? She said it was about 50-50.
Oh.
And I was just, what? I mean, how can a church be for that, right? And so it's gotten to the point.
Because the enemy's within now.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter the denomination anymore.
Yes, true.
It's the same thing with politics. I mean, it really doesn't matter what you call yourself.
Yeah.
In the end, are you wanting to destroy our country and help that, or do you want to save our country? And are you for what we used to think were basic? I mean, women, or you treated women in a certain way, and you treated children in a certain way, and all those basic beliefs that our country had about family and children and women, and even men, are just.
So that's why I want men to read that book as well as women. Let's get back to chivalry.
Yeah.
Let's get back to where men were strong and pure themselves, and when they looked at a woman, she wasn't an object of pleasure for his own.
One more way to meet his needs.
Yeah. Right. And so the Virtuous Woman, and the book is available at nothingbutthetruth.org.
Which is your ministry.
Which is our ministry, and along with 400 videos on different subjects. Right. And you guys are so important because mental health is the problem we have got right now.
Right,
this whole transgender thing is a mental health issue.
And yet people are listening to politicians and people and actors and people to set their social agendas instead of having us tell people, okay, they're not well. And I mean, a lot of people come to see us for disorders, and they can all be normal people, but they have these problems.
And if you
They have
tell them
issues.
about it, you're going to become the target.
Well, now it's even profession wise.
Yeah.
Biden's trying to say that if somebody comes to me, because I have people who come in that are gay that they don't want to be gay. They didn't mean to become gay. They just started experimenting or whatever.
Sure.
And so the medical guide, the DSM medical guide, had the treatments for them to get back to where they were and be healthy
Oh,
again.
yeah, really?
Yeah.
And the DSM.
Yes, and the DSM-4, it was 4 or 5. I think in DSM-4 they took it out,
Oh,
the treatment.
really?
And the same thing for identity disorder, gender identity disorder. All of these things there are treatment plans that we all learn to follow to help people be well again. And
See, you're right. That's
they're
what
taking
happened
them out.
in 1998. The University of Toronto was the first university to take the Hippocratic Oath out of the medical practice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And then other colleges follow suit. And to this day, a doctor can be a doctor now with no oath on the Hippocratic Oath.
I wonder if people know that, right? Because we have a friend, his movie's just coming out because his daughter had Down syndrome, and she had COVID in the hospital and they killed her.
Yeah.
And he has all the medical records. So him and a Christian legal firm has finally filed suit.
Well, see, the reason they did it was because the Hippocratic Oath includes a sentence that you're not allowed to deliver, I think it's called a pescus, to a woman, which causes abortion.
Oh, so that's why they took it out.
That's why they took it out. Now watch this. Now we have the right to kill, right? But what's behind that? And it is the fact that the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's what you find.
But that is true. That's so true. Because I don't think I understood that concept so clearly until you see everything. If you just follow the money, follow the money. It's about COVID, about the vaccines. I mean, it was so clear. Everything is about money.
It's about money.
And but it's gotten so severe that they're willing to kill people.
Yep. So we need to understand what Jesus has to say about the profit motive. Now it's interesting because the scriptures are really clear that godliness is profitable unto all things. But if you take the God part out and seek to be profitable without the God principles, it self-destructs. Now you've opened it up for corruption. Now you've opened it up for bribery. In America, we call it lobbying. In other countries, they call it bribery.
Oh, we call it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth, right?
That's interesting. Lobbying is bribery.
So I think women control, to a large degree, the culture. And it's time for men to come to attention and honor womanhood for what it really is and not use and abuse. And they go from one woman to another, to another, to another. There's something wrong with this picture. And it's narcissism. Narcissism. And the Bible word for narcissism is iniquity. That's what Satan said. He was perfect in all his ways until iniquity. And he said, I will be lifted up. I will be like the Most High God. I will exalt my throne above the throne of God. My stars above the stars of God. And he turned narcissistic. And the evidence of the Satan's prevalence today is the widespread narcissism in the culture. And it's what one of the 4 reasons Jesus went to the cross. He was wounded for transgressions, but he was bruised for our iniquities. Got to get to that. And that's really where the fix is.
I used to think it was just arrogance, but it goes farther than that.
It's self-exaltation.
Yeah.
And we don't care what truth is now. My truth, your truth, whose truth, and then we have fake truth. Yeah. And we're living in it. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to think wrong about womanhood.
Well, so women, it's interesting because the fact that they're trying to really take away all women's effect in the world, women are the ones that have babies. So there's the ones who multiply. So it's almost like they want to control that source. They want to control any repopulation. They want to just repopulate the way they want to and no other way. And in order to do that, you have to kind of take women out and control them.
True.
Or change their bodily functions, right?
Yeah, tragic.
I guess abortion is just a side thing if they actually have children, right? Like they want to kill them before they actually get pregnant. So let me just say, I know that your wife mentioned about the Virtuous Woman book could be used for even for men's Bible studies
Yes.
to teach men how to love women well.
Oh, men need to see all the glory that God has jammed and crammed into womanhood and motherhood, for that matter.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, my next book,
Yeah.
is called Christian Sex. And one thinks the virtuous woman must be a prude, right?
Yeah.
Not true. You go into this chapter on virtuous woman, you find that she has strength in her loins. I put a smile on Jim's face.
Oh, yeah, I'll smile about that.
Every man should be having a smile right now. She's got strength in her loins. Her loins are the reproductive parts of her body, but they're meant to be channeled and focused on her husband and not abused and misused. So, good news for men. Keep women being virtuous because they know what to do in bed.
Well, and I think how you treat a woman determines how much she wants.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And so what we find with men who don't treat their wives very well, their relationship is not very good. Because let me just say this, David. I know that you've said it many times that you take things and put them in real simple forms, but
That's what I try to do. Yeah,
you have said the simplest truths you take and try to put in simple form.
true.
How do you say it? You say it so much better than that.
I take complex truths and try to make them simple.
Yeah, complex truths.
Yeah.
That's right, not simple
Yeah,
truths. Complex truths.
reduce them to measurable, understandable, doable content, you know?
Because your book on iniquity changed the way I see iniquity, right? And it really, mostly it helped me understand that, you know, I had that at times. More when I was
It's the
younger.
enemy. It's the
Yeah.
enemy.
And then what became after that, right? When you start getting puffed up. So with this book, that's why I love your books. And we have a lot of your books.
Oh, do you?
We haven't read them all yet. I've read a lot of them. So for this one, what made you want to do this one?
I think it was mainly out of a need to honor women who have been so dishonored, hurt so bad they need healing, put down so much they need to be lifted up, discarded like trash instead of esteemed and honored. I mean that's a tragedy, and it's kind of what you and Jim do in your ministry. People come in broken, and they need to be healed, and of course Jesus specializes in that. You know, that's why they call him Savior. There isn't anything broke he can't fix. There isn't any dirty thing that he can't clean. You know, he puts life back together again. And so the hope is that women will receive the book. It's actually a gift book, very picturesque.
It's pretty. It's very
And
pretty.
in the front, a husband should buy this book, read it first, and then fill in the dedication on the front page to his wife.
Oh,
You know?
that's great.
And so, Jim, you know what you have to do tonight, right?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, man.
I just think it's so pretty. It's just a pretty book. I love the lavender.
How do you?
So this would be a wonderful gift book. But also, would you give it to women or a woman to give it to a woman she admired?
True.
I would do that.
It's good for a mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good for a grandmother. The book ends, by the way, with how do you become a virtuous woman? And that's really what everybody has to get to. How do you become one? And of course, that requires a change of life management. And that's what the gospel is about, is bringing one's life under the management of Christ. See, if somebody's going to manage your life, they need to be really smart.
Well, I would hope.
They need to love you, and they need to never quit. And that's exactly what Jesus is like. Nobody loves you like him. And nobody's smarter than him, right? I'm the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
And he said he'd never quit. He said, lo, I'm with you always, even to the end, so that you could boldly say, the Lord is my helper. He will never quit on you. So it starts with coming to Jesus. Then the book's going to give you some tips. Because after you get your heart right, then you got to get your head right. Got to think God's way about every subject that touches your life. That's a big job, but the steps are there. And the third thing is you got to get your emotions under control, because emotions were never designed by God to be a guidance system.
No.
Instead, emotions. So
Because Moses learned that.
yeah,
He was in the desert for a very long time. God left him there for a long time.
True, to learn the lessons, right?
Yeah.
So if God says go this way and your feelings go that way, we've got to learn to go God's way anyhow. But how much easier it is if we can learn 7 basic principles to turn our emotions around, so God always says go that way, but my feelings are in favor, helping, dynamic me towards doing what God says. Then, of course, if you get your heart right, then your head right, then your feelings right, then you can plan your life properly. And then reproduce. You get to teach somebody else.
Get to teach somebody else.
And you go through the system. So the book ends up with, of course, it's about character. And somebody said that when money is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, everything is lost. So the book ends with presenting the character qualities of the virtuous woman and how to build them into their lives. And they're good for men too.
Yeah, I bet. Can't wait to read it and
Oh, you're going to give it to me.
Write something wonderful to this woman here.
Well,
He is your fellow traveler on the road to eternal life.
Yes,
it's interesting because one of the things that you said was women, the best thing that they can do is to build up their man. I focus on that, right?
That's a big part of it.
And that's not how you said it, but
it's called a helpmate.
Yes.
Right?
And I think that
it's not good for a man to be alone.
No.
Not good.
Women are not good at being alone anyway.
We are not.
They're not good at being alone. But I do think, so let me just ask you this. Women who hear that, right? They want to be out for their own success as well. So for them, that might be offensive that, well, I would just work to build him up and it'd be all about him, because that's the way people in the past, there are women who think that's what they used to do, right? When I have a healthy, really wonderful couple that they're both successful, the woman is in so many ways, even though she's successful too, she is focused on her husband's success.
Sure.
And
in the Proverbs, you remember her husband sits in the gates. What is that? In ancient times, all cities were walled. You could only get in through a gate. And the gates was where the government sat. They controlled who came in, immigration. Who went out, immigration. What products came in, what products went out. The gates were the control centers. Mm-hmm. We have gates in America, in Washington. We have gates in the capital of our states. Her husband was keeper of the gates. He can safely trust in her. That's another one.
Yeah.
So he can go to the gates and not worry that she's going to cheat or violate or undo. It's teamwork. We're workers together. Mm. I think marriage ought to be based on this one fundamental principle, that you and I together are going to be more effective than either one of us would be separate. And so this urge to merge properly is a team. It's a team.
Well, and that you're right, because I love building him up, getting his book done, all the things, and promoting him, and I do that. But the thing about it is that he also does it the opposite way. He does it. He's all about that with me. And what I find is couples where a man's trying to be successful, but there's so much turmoil at home, he can't focus on that, and so he isn't successful. And that makes him, then he's more bitter and he's more angry and he's resentful. And that's very hard for a woman to be successful, to live in that home.
There's no doubt about it that peace is really important. Yeah. Peace. Peace with God, peace with one another. That's really important. Peace is a condition out of which comes mental health.
It's much better to be in a peaceful environment.
Person without peace they got mental problems. They got all kinds. They got spiritual problems.
No peace.
Can't run a good race on the wrong track. And the peace is so important. And keeping the peace. So like on our website, which is nothingbutthetruth.org, we have a teaching, for example, what should a person do if they're not in love with their spouse? And the Bible clearly gives 3 things you should not do and 6 things you should do. And we learn that
Are those in
from, they're not in there, but they're on the website.
They're on the website.
Nothingbutthetruth.org. You can find it. What to do if you're not in love with your spouse, because the scriptures, Hosea gives us the detail. I mean, he had married to a hooker.
Yep.
And she kept cheating on him. What do you do about that?
Would that be Gomer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So we learned God gave him principles on what to do with Gomer. And those are the principles that make a marriage come back together no matter how bad it is. In our culture, we just desert.
Yes.
And isn't that what the prediction is? In the last days, perilous times shall come, men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affections, traitors. So 42% of children are raised in homes without a father. Where'd the father go? He's a deserter. Deserted. In the military, you do that. It's a death sentence.
Yeah.
And now we're living with generations of children.
Did you know the statistic that most women do the divorces? They file the divorces. Mostly it's women. It's like 80%. It's not the men. Now, I'm not saying the women aren't so fed up because of what's going on with the men.
Yeah, probably.
But it's the woman that actually, most of the
had
time,
enough.
that files for the divorce. And I say that marriage, it's not really over until someone files for divorce. And
Well,
people say, why did you get divorced? And I'll know that the real answer is one of them finally filed for divorce. And so they gave up on God. They gave up on
the right
believing
response.
that God would ever heal it. I think that people get so far away from
If
it.
you'll notice, though, I said, what to do if you're not in love with your spouse. It isn't about the man only, it's about the woman too. The same principles, 3 things not to do, 6 things to do. Work as effective for the woman as it does for the man.
And I do think that if the man, in the families where the man is, what would you call it, loving his wife well, everything goes well in that family. It's just things, that's where you find the woman happy and joyful and content
and
doing well.
And you know what's even great about that? That's where a daughter learns how her future husband should treat her, because she saw how her father treated her mother. And that's where a son learns on how to treat his future wife the way his father taught the mother. Because the home is the classroom.
The home is the classroom.
It is the classroom.
That's right.
It sure is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, I was so excited.
Every time we come to NRB and begin planning the trip and planning the interviews and everything, your name comes.
I always want to see you.
Oh, you're very kind.
Because I kind of equate your name and you with NRB because you were one of the very first people we met when we started doing NRB.
Well, you're a blessing too to so many people, and it's a privilege to be part of your lives. So.
Thank you. We feel the same way about you guys, and your dear wife is so sweet to come along with you and to help. So
the where do we get the book? Where do we get the book?
Oh, nothingbutthetruth.org, or they're also available. They're also available on Amazon.
Okay.
And most big booksellers.
So they'll find it.
Again, you can get a Kindle version, which is audio, and so far so good.
Thank you.
You guys have to run for it right now.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.